Hello my friends and welcome back. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Every week I wait for the Wednesday to say this and to say happy hump day for you. We have broken the spine of this week, so we're gonna survive it. I will bring to you now an orc lady, an occupier lady, a Russian soldier lady with a weird paratrooper hat or a tankist hat. Well, she has something to say to us, and don't worry, it's 30 seconds, we're not going to understand it, I'll translate it to you later. Let's just watch it. На Kyiv, а потом сразу на Berlin. You understand, Kyiv and Berlin. And she has, what is that, BMP, I think? Yeah. And it's not over. Na Berlin. And they have a Soviet flag in the back. Yeah, that's the plan of this orc lady. First to Kyiv, then to Berlin with a BMP-1 or BMP-2, which is like a half a century old, and with the Soviet flag. That's their plan. I'm not sure if this lady is alive or not. If she went to an assault, she's probably unalived by now, but that's the plan. Now you might think, oh, this is Putin's war, or maybe some Westerners might think this, and I have always said it, and I will say it again, Russian population living in Russia or serving in the Russian army have a collective responsibility. It's not following orders, because I have spoken to many Russians, seen many videos of regular, ordinary Russians, number one, either being pro-war, number two, being not satisfied with how the war is going, but not being anti-war. They just want the war to be more victorious. Or number three, they just want to look away, enabling this war. I don't want to talk about it. I don't care. I'm anti-war, you know, and I'm a pacifist. But it's their government, their country, their language, and their culture. They are a part, collectively responsible for the atrocities. That's what I think. That's what I believe in. Feel free to oppose me in the comments. And my friends, like 2 times already in this war now, for the 3rd time, Rasputitsa is here in Ukraine. The mud and rain season, as you can see, and they are hitting the puddle right now, and boom, it's filled with water, mud water all over the car. Hey, this is a light case, no problem, it's just mud water. But in this next video, we can already see that this truck needs to be pulled out by another truck, because tanks, fighting vehicles, trucks, as you can see on this video also, they get stuck in the mud now. I mean, look at this. In Ukraine, most of the land is very fertile, and it's like a field pretty much, which means a little bit of water, and it's the rain season right now, and it turns into this mud pit. Whatever you go through in it, it will get stuck. A tank, a BMP, an amphibious vehicle, all of them will be drowned in the mud. It affects both sides equally, meaning that Russians and Ukrainians for the next 1.5 to 2 months cannot do any major large-scale offensive operation. Localized offensives will happen and positional battles will happen, but large-scale maneuvers of brigade-sized units is not possible. My friends, I want to introduce you to Ground News, the #1 news comparison site in the world. Today we're going to take a look at this piece of news. Zelensky will present his Ukraine victory plan to Western leaders, but Biden meeting is postponed. What do we see on the Ground News page of this specific article? We see the coverage details on the right, 82nd different sources, which means there's plenty of sources to go around. Bias distribution is 43% center, and you can see it visualized right here on the chart. 34% left-leaning and 23% right-leaning. If you wish to read, for example, more centrist news to be more balanced, you need tools like Ground News to recognize which articles and which titles are leaning left or right. We have the factuality, of course. 60% of the sources are high factuality, 37% are mixed factuality. Anything below high factuality, I wouldn't even read. Of course, there's the ownership chart right here to tell who is owning the news platform, aka what might be their agenda. Here we can see all of the sources, and when I scroll down, I see different news outlets using different titles and where are they leaning, right or left. With the wording in the titles, I can already compare what titles, for example, the left side uses and what title the right side uses, because the wording already makes a big difference. I can also go and click For You tab, because Ground News actually has my own personalized interests tab here, and there's Ukraine and Ukraine war, I click on Ukraine war, seeing all of the news only talking about this specific topic, so I don't waste my time finding what I want to read. Compare news coverage, spot media bias, avoid algorithms. Try Ground News today and get 40% off your subscription by going to ground.news/Artur. Thank you Ground News for sponsoring today's video. My friends, I kid you not, this is the level of Ukrainians' intelligence network in the rear of the Russian areas, or in the rear of the Russian front, let's call it like that. I'll read it to you, and it's truly priceless. According to reports on Russian channels, someone, or as I say on my Buy Me a Coffee members butchering, Someone has been placing dragon's teeth, concrete anti-tank obstacles, on roads in the Kursk region at night. These roads are used by Russian soldiers attempting to flee from Ukrainian FPV drones. It's claimed that within 24 hours, 40 people were unalived and an equal number were wounded due to these obstacles. And look at that. These are Russians putting up these signs, just taking them from the streets and putting them up next to the dragon's teeth. So cars going 150 kilometers per hour fleeing from the drones can actually spot these signs and turn away, because without these signs it looks like this. It comes out of nowhere. It's a very dark time right now in this part of the world, meaning mostly there's clouds and the sun is already setting very early, meaning in the evening and night it's really dark. Not like gray, but it's like pitch black. And you're fleeing from a drone 150 kilometers per hour and this stuff appears in front of you, you're gonna smash into it, and many cars did already. And it's so strange that this is the tactic. I mean, it costs nothing for the Ukrainians, and it's as simple as, oh my god, someone put anti-tank obstacles in our roads and we didn't know about it, and now 40 guys are unalive. Wow, very nice. A witness described the danger. I was driving back and almost crashed into them. Didn't want to risk the fields in the dark, so I took the road. I barely avoided the second set. And yeah, you might say, oh, why don't you drive off the road, just go around them? Well, it's the field next to them. First of all, it could be mined, and second of all, the mud does not forgive. You go onto the field, you will not leave the field with your vehicle. You cannot go onto the field. The road is your only option, and suddenly these dragon's teeth appear out of nowhere. Oh la la! Frustration is growing among soldiers, with one remarking, in just a few days we've had more casualties, including irrecoverable losses from the damn dragon's teeth than from enemy drones. Your dragon is fighting on the wrong side. While some blame sabotage group, it's clear that such large obstacles couldn't have been placed by hand alone. So if it is the Ukrainians, they have used some major engineering vehicles to do this behind enemy lines. How is this possible? You tell me. My friends, I don't usually include these videos, but this is too clear cut. It's too perfect to ignore. This is United States aid purely in front of our eyes. What effect does it have on the battlefield? I mean, this drone footage here, it's just too plain and simple. What does United States aid to Ukraine look like? Grid square deletion. It's pure grid square deletion. I mean, you delete an entire square. In occupied Ukraine, likely Kherson, no, but this is actually Zaporizhia, a Russian training camp gets hit by hundreds of submunitions from ATACMS. I cannot confirm that this was ATACMS, but I can confirm that it was a cluster munition, and we can assume it was given by the United States. Unprotected troops in the open stand little chance due to the dispersion or volume of shrapnel. Let's watch it. You can see troops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 soldiers right here running back and forth. They're training, perhaps training assaulting a position head on with weapons. There's another group of soldiers right here to the right, and there are instructors right here to the left. Life is going on here, training is going on. I count about 15 to 20 troops on this imagery here alone. And this is quite a large area, we can see, right? This is, let's say, one... and then boom, covering everything. Everything. There is no escape. This entire image filled with Stalin's organ, or however you call it, where shrapnel is flying everywhere all the time at once and there's nowhere to hide. This is what a cluster munition does. This is how much it changes. Since Russia's biggest strength is their manpower, clusters are the fast way to take away that strength from them. So this is just to bring you the sheer effectiveness of clusters, and the Western powers have clusters and more. And we just looked at what happened to Russian meat when they're hit with clusters. Now I would show you what happens to the very same meat about a week later. It is buried, and in this instance back in Russia, well, actually occupied Tatarstan. Tatarstan is a Russian occupied area in Russia, because Russia is an empire and they're occupying several ethnicities. Tatarstan is Muslim majority in Russia. They don't have Russian language, they don't have Russian culture or heritage. They're their own people with their own culture, language, everything, traditions. And this is the Russian military graveyard in Tatarstan. In the first months of war, this was more prominent, but I always talked about is how if you look at Russia's losses tracked to the origins of the troops, most of them come from Buryatia, Tatarstan, and other ethnically minority areas of Russia which are not ethnically Russian. So Putin, using this war, is Russianizing Russia and lowering other ethnicities' importance in Russia. It's almost like he will just use this war to get rid of people he would otherwise need to deport or put to jail, but now he can just send them to die for him. He deliberately keeps these areas poor, so when any war happens, he can just pay them a little bit more and they're ready to go and die for him. My friends, I did a podcast with Jake Broe on my channel. If you didn't know, then Jake Broe actually was the very, very first podcast guest on Rehi podcast about 1.5 years ago at the end of 2022. And now, 1.5 years later, I did another one with him. You can see it on Rehi podcast YouTube channel. The link is in the description below. It is up right now, so go and check. We had a very heartfelt conversation about Ukraine, about mental health, about being a military blogger, and about United States elections. We talked about that a lot, and Jake is kind of an expert on all of these topics actually, so go and check it out. Now, my friends, I want to bring to you Garry Kasparov, the grandmaster of chess in the world, and he is not pro-Russia at all. He is an anti-Russian empire, and I bring you 45 seconds of what he thinks it is the Russian future. Russia has no future if this war is not lost. We have a clear political vision of what the future should be. Talking about Russia has no future if Russia doesn't lose war. So they need to lose this war to have any future. Russia must stop being an empire. Russia must withdraw from Ukraine. Russia must return territories, pay reparations, and extradite war criminals. Anyone who agrees with this concept is welcomed. We don't have any problems. It is the only chance for Russia to become a civilized state. At those who take an intermediate position, I do not consider them to be our allies in the main issue. And I agree with this so much, and I want to open this up. People in the West and in Russia alike look away from this war. They decide to look away. In Russia, they look away because they don't want the responsibility, because responsibility is scary. It is difficult to grow up as a person and accept responsibility about your life, about your surroundings, and about your country. You are a part of it. So Russians don't want to do it, so I don't want to talk about the war. Let's not discuss. In the West, same thing. Some Western people, I'm not saying all of you, if you watch this video, you're not part of them. You're already watching this war. You're already knowing what's happening in Ukraine. But people who decide not to follow the outcomes of this war because it makes them depressed or tired or apathetic, these people choose to enable those atrocities in Ukraine. It's not about being a pacifist or not about being a hipster or not about being pro-peace. All these three things I just mentioned are pro-Russia because Putin benefits from people in the West being a pacifist, people in the West being anti-war. I am pro-war, and let me open this up. I'm from Estonia and I am pro-war because if you understand how Russia as a state works, they want war all the time. The only time they don't want war is when they're weak and understand that they're losing. Then they want peace, then they want people to sue for peace and talk. As soon as you talk with Russia and make a ceasefire, you allow them to start preparing for the next war. war. If you don't do that and the war goes on, this is the only time you can actually fight them and grind them down as much as possible so they wouldn't take over your territory. So, as an Estonian citizen, as a citizen of free democratic West, I am pro-war in Ukraine. There can be no ceasefire, nothing. Russia must lose this war in Ukraine. No diplomatic outcome will fix Russia, and they will start again in 15 or 20 years, and then they have learned from their mistake. That's what they do in a few generations usually. So if anybody feels in a conversation that they're anti-war or pro-peace, then know that in this specific conflict, this is benefiting Russia greatly. There is a war going on. In a war, you choose sides. It is impossible to sit on two chairs during a war. I do agree so much. And tying this to the next topic, Ukrainian troops were digging trenches somewhere on the front lines, and they dug out these Second World War era munitions and canisters. I mean, I don't know much about these shells, but they look to me like Soviet artillery shells. They could be German also. Well, the point is, the Second World War was very heavily fought over Ukrainian soil. So this land is still filled with munitions almost over a century ago. And 1 century from now, people who dig in Ukraine will dig out this war's munitions. The point is, Russian Empire was never defeated. Germany was, and look how prosperous they have been. Russia was never defeated. The Tsar Empire collapsed and immediately continued as a Russian Empire, but under the name of the Soviet Union, which then again collapsed and immediately continued under the name of the Russian Federation. It is still one empire mindset of the people who are collectively responsible for their leaders' acts. Russia is an empire. They have never been defeated like Germany and Japan was. Look at these prospering states now. And if people go to tell me, oh, German economy is declining, let's see what Germany was for that. I mean, the economy might be declining maybe 5% altogether, but how much it has risen in the last 80 years, uncomparable amount to the Soviet Union or to Russia. So what Russia needs to do is not ceasefire, not a diplomatic agreement. They need to be dismantled, grinded down like Germany and Japan was after the Second World War. They need to be taken to pieces bit by bit, because that's where the evil comes from. They give to North Korea, they give to Iran. These countries then start their own proxy wars. Iran paying Hezbollah and Hamas and Israel. There's a conflict there right now. There's a lot brewing with South and North Korea and China and Taiwan. It is all connected to this one war, and it is Russia. American politicians of both parties are pressuring Zelensky to mobilize Ukrainians aged 18 to 25. And by the way, if you didn't know this, then yes, in Ukraine, it is right now illegal to mobilize age 18 to 25. Mobilization age is 26 and above. They compare it to Vietnam War, stressing that Western weapons alone are not enough. President Zelensky is reportedly holding his ground, arguing for resistance without changing the draft date, according to advisor of President Zelensky, Chief of Staff Leschenko. Now, I want to open up this topic because, yeah, Ukraine has an untouched manpower of up to 1 million altogether. Like, they have not touched 18 to 25-year-old males with a law, only volunteer based on that age. But Zelensky and the Duma of Ukraine, like the parliament of Ukraine, they don't want to mobilize them because there's no supplies, there's no weapons, there's no uniforms, there's no ammunitions or officers to train them. You cannot mobilize these guys without the proper readiness for it, without the proper supply chain. Otherwise, you just create cannon fodder to be killed by Russian fab bombs. Zelensky knows this, Ukrainian Duma knows this. Without proper supply chains from the West that are not there right now, Ukraine cannot mobilize their manpower because they don't want to throw their manpower potential away. And by not throwing it away, you cannot mobilize if there's no stuff for it, as simple as it is. So right now, there is just no option that Ukraine can mobilize. Now, my friends, I want to show you a Ukrainian drone pilot very quickly. This is a 20-year-old Ukrainian drone pilot, and he has destroyed over 300 Russian targets. Now, in this video, we can see him practicing on this what looks to be a simulator in a practice hall somewhere in Ukraine. And this, actually, I know this place because I've been to this place. This is a Ukrainian drone academy. I know exactly where it is, and it's very much hidden, actually. And they're practicing just on this game. I played this simulation for like 2 hours, and my head was hurting after that. And then it translates into real war because it really gives them a great training. All right. right, my friends. This is, we are in the very same drone academy right here, and I'll show you the video. This is me and Alex Guinness talking. This is me playing or rehearsing at the very same place, at the very same simulation. It was insanely difficult. It was for me one of the first times to fly an FPV drone, and we just have this casual conversation for 20 minutes while I fly this. It was so difficult. And this was, I think this was back in May when I was in Kyiv, in Ukraine, and I know this place has trained over 3,000 Ukrainian FPV pilots, because we took a tour of it. We all practiced with the drones. It's an amazing academy. It's an amazing drone training area, and I'm doing this bit just to let you know how insanely difficult it is to be a good drone pilot. If you have flown a civilian drone, there's nothing to compare. Civilian drones have so much pilot aids. Flying an FPV raw, I mean, there's no control over it. You have to put tens of hours before you can actually control it properly. Now, my friends, will go to North Korea. Yes, because I've said many times, for me, this is one great conflict, and it's fought on 3 areas right now: Middle East, Ukraine, and China, Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea. 3 areas, 1 conflict, same player. So this is why I have no issue talking about North Korean fight as it is a Ukrainian fight, because the players are the same. I will open up with this footage or picture of North and South Korea from space. You can see this is the biggest social experiment in the world. South Korea, a capitalist system. North Korea, a communist system. Let's let them evolve for almost a century and let's see what happens. Well, it is plain in sight right here. South Korea, a thriving first world country with a very strong military, and North Korea, a starving nation that actually would starve much more that if it weren't for China, who is sending food regularly. South Korean intelligence says that the North Korean side of the border, they are seeing a large-scale deployment of troops as well as arrival of explosives, indicating that North Korea is preparing to detonate and destroy 2 railway lines and roads between South and North Korea. This was before, and now we see the after, because they actually blew up a railway line and a road on their side of the demilitarized zone. It's strange. Yes, they blew it up. Okay, wow, big deal. But it's weird because they blew up their side of the border. I don't understand. If they're getting ready to attack South Korea, why blow up the road that leads South Korea? If they're getting ready to defend from South Korea, then it would make sense, but they're not getting ready to defend. I mean, North Korea is supposed to have an offensive army. Yeah, so this is North Korean way to try to like escalate, but it's stupid and weird because they blew up their side. I don't understand it. And it gets worse, by the way. Check this out. This is silly. North Korea is posturing. They blew up the same road years ago in several other locations. The bridge spans were dropped so long ago, there's no sign of debris anymore. Here's the blown up bridge in the demilitarized zone and the previous road destruction, which is just across the North Korean side of the demilitarized zone. So you can see there the damage is long done already before, so they pretty much blew up the same road that was already blown up, just like to show that they did this, just like try to escalate. But I mean, it's just dumb. So retarded. North Koreans in Ukraine? What the fuck? But my friends, to even illustrate more how a North Korea-South Korea conflict is very much connected to Russo-Ukrainian war, leak from the Russian Defense Ministry. Soldiers from North Korea sent to invade Ukraine alongside Russians are being issued identity cards to pass them as Buryats. Now, Buryats are a minority ethnicity in Russia. Buryatia is occupied by Russia. And Buryats are an Asian people, Asian minor people. They have Asian facial features, so North Koreans could barely pass as Buryats, and this is what Russians are playing them as. Buryatia is a republic occupied by Russia in eastern Siberia, where indigenous people have Asian appearance. And now it gets worse. This is like a Topshop commercial, but wait, it gets worse. 18 North Korean soldiers have reportedly fled from positions near the Ukrainian border with Russia's Bryansk and Kursk regions, according to the Ukrainian intelligence source. Russian sources are now searching for the deserters, Russian forces, searching for the deserters while trying to hide the incident from their higher command. The thing is, almost all of North Korean population is starving or either scraping by. Now, the only big group of people in North Korea who are fed pretty much normally are the army, and even sometimes even they are starving. So North Korean soldiers being sent from North Korea when they're lacking everything and there's a deficit of everything. They're being sent to like Kursk, which is a massive upgrade all around them. I mean, yes, this being Russia, it's still like a massive leap in the quality of life for North Korean soldiers, and they haven't even ever seen this much food around, even on the front lines, as they're seeing in Kursk. Of course, they're trying to desert, they're trying to get away from the regime. That's their ticket to the world, because in North Korea, you don't have that ticket. I mean, I really doubt the quality of these soldiers, but they might do something with their quantity. Their quantity itself might be a quality, but one by one, they're meat. Putin has submitted a draft to the Russian State Duma for the ratification of comprehensive strategic partnership between North Korea and Russia. This is an official ratification of State Duma, this draft. This is official Russian policy. They are allies with North Korea, and with this signing of this, North Korea is pretty much in this war. You cannot watch this war and say it's a war between Russia and Ukraine. It's just not possible, and it pains me to see how some Western people see it like that. It is not a Russian-Ukrainian war. It is right now Ukraine fighting Russia, North Korea, China and Iran all on their own, and the West is not like, I don't want this to be a banter against the West, and I do apologize if any of you feel that your country has done and I don't see it. I appreciate every last infantry fighting vehicle and ammunition given by like Germany, Spain and Italy and all these countries. Thank you, it's great help. I'm pointing out that much more needs to be done. Now my friends, my favorite part of the video, hump day edition of butchering the Buy Me a Coffee monthly members. These guys are the foundation of this channel. Sometimes videos get demonetized and then I fall back to the safety, to the foundation of Buy Me a Coffee. So here we go. Someone, Jackson Legge, Mal Elvo, Leo Laatala, Herb Sveat, Richard Stratton, Kuski 1984, David Kantara. Thank you to each and every one of you. Until my next video, my friends, which will be on Friday, go and check out Jake Broe on my podcast. Links in the description below. Also, if you want to support the channel, Buy Me a Coffee monthly membership with you. Until Friday, my friends, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.